We have a massive update to go over today as an NBA insider has dropped a bombshell Celtics trade report and updates surrounding one player in particular that not many fans expected. We're going to break down exactly who that is and discuss what this means going forward. As folks, this quite literally changes everything for the outlook of the next few days and weeks and months for this Boston Celtics team. But before we get into all of that, folks, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying the daily Celtics content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys again for continued support over here. You guys have been fantastic with the subscribing. But folks, a lot to go over today. Some huge news dropped late last night, and it is surrounding the future of Anthony Simons. And I, of course, had a video on this covering it very recently, a couple days ago, but we have another report now confirming what I covered a few days ago, but it's some very big news here. The Celtics are exploring trading Anthony Simons' $27.7 million deal per The Athletic. Now, I covered it in the video the other day that they were exploring making a trade, according to Shams, for, of course, getting rid of Anthony Simons, but it has been confirmed now that this is an order to keep Luke Kornet and Al Horford. Now, this is interesting on a variety of fronts here, folks. And let's start with just the fact that now this is two different reporters. Of course, the Athletic with abundance of reporters and Shams Charania saying that the Celtics are going to be trading Anthony Simons. You pair that with, and again, feel free to check out my other video after you finish this one in its entirety, because we have an interesting report at the end you're going to want to stay tuned for. But you pair that with the fact that, and Bruce covered this, Brad Stevens, which comments we'll dive into in a minute here, came out and also said that the Boston Celtics are basically going to try to retain Luke Kornet and Al Horford, at least one of the two, but most likely and ideally both, because they don't have any center depth right now. You pair that with the fact that where they look at regarding the luxury tax, the first apron, it makes all the sense in the world that Anthony Simons is going to get traded once again. And folks, this is very intriguing. Let's dive into the, some of the article here, and also not only the article, but some of the, the full report, but also some quotes from Brad Stevens. But it says here, feel free to pause and read the whole thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll kind of give you the summary, of it. Obviously, they offloaded the contract of Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porziņģis, and at the moment, they appear hopeful of accomplishing the goal because their aim is to escape the luxury tax entirely. They currently sit $15 million above that threshold. They would need to cut more salary than that to position themselves far enough under the threshold to be able to keep Kornet and Horford. Stevens, who called the veteran big man a huge part of the organization on Wednesday night, has stated he would like to re-sign. And of course, there's also Sam Hauser's future, which I had a video on yesterday. His $45 million contract, which you could probably, get a first-round pick, hopefully, maybe a protected one from another team there. You get rid of both of those guys, and then you're talking about getting under the luxury tax. And of course, you also have Gorgeous Niang, who we'll discuss a little bit later. But it seems now, with just some more updates in here, like they're not done with just getting out of the second apron. They want to get out of the luxury tax entirely. And that's something that, is very interesting and obviously makes a lot of sense. But it's some new information here because we finally have their plans confirmed. Now, if you read between the lines when Brad Stevens spoke, you could kind of put two and two together here surrounding, getting rid of Anthony Simons and what the plan is, because you couldn't keep, and you can't keep Al Horford and Luke Kornet, or really getting either of them back if you keep, the team the way it is right now, which is why most of us just assumed until, Brad Stevens came out and said that they're going to let them walk. Not the case here. Now, Stevens acknowledged there's a lot of things that go into these moves and a lot of things that are really important. And listen, again, it goes back to prioritizing our flexibility. Third paragraph here. There's a bit of wistfulness always when guys move on, but at the same time, the rules are the same for everyone, and we've got a lot of good players here and a lot of good assets here, and we feel like we'll be set up to compete really well in the near future. So it's always heartening when you know that you're in that spot. There's a lot of teams that feel further than we do. I'm sure there's a banner that would be here forever, and of course, you can see here, which is a very, instilling, confident quote. We sort of realized when we were a couple summers ago that we could take advantage of the situation with the assets we had and the salary situation we were in. Basically diving back to, of course, taking advantage of that Damian Lillard trade, which ultimately landed them Jrue Holiday in the grand scheme of things, and they got Kristaps Porziņģis, and they got all these different guys. It worked out. The Celtics won a championship. It was fantastic asset management by the Boston Celtics, and we all knew, if you were watching the Celtics for a while and you're a fan of the team, that this day was going to come eventually, where you had to trade off some of these guys. You were going to be in luxury tax, a horrible part of it. They got out of it, or they're working on getting out of it. They traded Jrue, they traded Kristaps. You keep Jaylen Brown, you keep Jayson Tatum, and now it's about what's next here. And regarding Simons, there was a lot of fans who were excited about it. Had a bit of a drop off last year, but he's a 20-point per game scorer 2 times in his career. Really started to excel a little bit. He's a very poor defender, and how much would he actually help this team? I'm not exactly sure. And they're trying to trade him simply because of the fact that they are focused not on next year, but on the year after. And I think they believe that keeping Al Horford and Luke Kornet, at the very least, one of the two for next year and maybe even beyond. But Al Horford is getting up there in age. So that's kind of the interesting thing. they need a center, and centers are not easy to come by right now in the NBA. And it's kind of shifting back to a center-focused league. And we're talking about, big men here. For a while, there was a lot of teams, even the Raptors, like committing to a full small ball lineup, and they reacquired Pirtle. There's teams, look at the team that won the championship last year, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They won the championship in the year following acquiring Isaiah Hartenstein, which really helped them paired with Chet Holmgren. You talk about all these different teams that won the championship. Even the Celtics the year before, Kristaps Porziņģis, that's a crucial addition to the team, but they also had Al Horford, Luke Cornell, all these different guys who contributed. 3 big men. They had Sam Hauser, the emergence of him, who's not necessarily a center or anything like that, but you need a big man. And I think that the Celtics are fine at this juncture getting rid of Anthony Simons in order to prioritize what they need to do, which is a big man. You can see here, in such a move, they would be aiming to accomplish 2 organizational directives that Brad Stevens emphasized after the first round of the NBA draft on Wednesday, regaining more roster flexibility and setting up a path to retain free agents Luke Cornett and Al Horford. The news comes after an NBA personnel executive reportedly told Steve Bulpert of The Heavy that Boston is still out there talking trade and Simons could be gone if the right move comes along. Now, what you get back for Simons is the big question. Will a team like the Pelicans try to take him on? Will a team like the Kings try to take him on? A team that wants another scorer. I could see maybe the Pelicans, maybe again the Sacramento Kings. It could be extremely interesting there. The Raptors, they don't really need more guards. Like teams like that where you can take advantage of their interesting positions. And for the Lakers, or for the Celtics rather, getting out of that luxury tax is going to be crucial because again, there's, like Keith Smith said a few days ago, there's more to come, but the Celtics are now out of the second apron by more than $4.5 million, and they are $7.4 million over the first apron and $15 million over the luxury tax. And their number one goal right now is to get out of that luxury tax, and that should be able to be done by trading Anthony Simons and trading Sam Hauser. And now the question remains: A, what assets can you get back? And B, how will that affect them going forward, with their actual team? And are any of these assets, if they're going to be picks, are you going to be able to get positive assets out of it? I have full faith in Brad Stevens. If you can get 2 second-round picks out of Jrue Holiday, I'm confident you can get, some picks for, of course, Sam Hauser. And I saw some of you guys in the comment section of my video yesterday talking about how, maybe get a first-round pick protected for Sam Hauser. It's a very good point. Like some team out there, I'm sure would like to take him. It's going to be interesting. And let me know down below what you guys think about it, because they're all great players at the end of the day. And I think, even like the 2 guys that are remaining here in the, not the Lakers, but in the Celtics, lineup, you're at a very solid point now. Like let's say you want to get rid of Simons and Hauser. Both of those guys should have positive value, you would assume, right? Especially for a team like, again, I bring up the Kings, but a lot of these teams that want just talent, Anthony Simons is just that. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. And, maybe even the Lakers take a flyer on him because, I brought this up here, looking at like the Lakers, how they could be a fit for him. Would it make sense with their salary? Probably not. But again, you could maybe fit him in as like a backup point guard spot if they make a trade there. We know Rob Pelinka is super active. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but, there's been some rumblings out there throwing some. Let me know down below. Also, one quick thing before I wrap up here, there's an interesting story told about Joe Mazzulla. I just thought it was funny, so I wanted to bring it up. Brian Windhorst brings up a story between Joe Mazzulla and Baylor Shireman, and how apparently late in the season this year, Shireman and Mazzulla came at the door at the same time. Mazzulla just stopped and wouldn't move. Shireman just stopped and wouldn't move. They just stared at each other 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. People are coming and going, and they're staring at each other, and for 40 minutes, they're just staring at each other. So it goes to show Joe Mazzulla takes, we all know he's an interesting guy, taking some interesting initiative there with the young rookie. But that'll wrap it up. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. Some very interesting reports coming out. Cheers.